A few days back, we came across a super interesting headline. Lebanon is devaluing its currency by 90%. Why would a country devalue its own currency? We looked into it and boy, were we in for a surprise. Lebanon has been quietly undergoing what has been called one of the worst economic crises of the last 150 years. Before you blame COVID or some other calamity, they're not the culprits here. This is a story of corruption and bad governance. This is a case study of how mismanagement can kill an economy. Sit tight and read on. Welcome back to Revolution Read On, a daily podcast where we break down one story from the world of business and finance. Click on the subscribe button to never miss an update from us. Here's your story for today. 23-hour-long power cuts, long lines for basics like bread and fuel, minimum wage down by 84%, inflation hitting a high of 171%. A nightmare? The reality of Lebanon. This is exactly why it is devaluing its currency. But how did it get here? The story dates back to 1990. Lebanon had just come out of a massive civil war lasting from 1975 to 1990. The war had a lasting economic impact. It brought down the value of the Lebanese pound. Now, as the pound lost its value, imports became super expensive. To solve this problem, it pegged its currency to the dollar. It announced that $1 would now be equal to 1,507 Lebanese pounds forever. If Lebanese citizens brought $1 to the banks, they would get 1,507 Lebanese pounds in return. This solved one problem temporarily, but gave rise to several other problems. Now, Lebanon had to maintain this exchange rate. To do so, it needed a steady supply of dollars. Initially, this wasn't a problem. Lebanon got a lot of money in remittances and got loans from other Gulf countries, so it had a lot of dollar reserves. In fact, dollar became a commonly used currency in the swanky neighborhoods of Lebanon with posh stores accepting dollars. Things were going well. Lebanon was the Switzerland of the Middle East until 2011. The beginning of the Syrian civil war. This war brought in a lot of unrest in the Middle East. A lot of Lebanese citizens employed in other Middle Eastern countries lost their jobs. Remittances went down. With remittance dollars low in supply, how would Lebanon pay off existing debt? Well, Lebanon found yet another way to boost dollar reserves. It increased interest rates to encourage people to deposit their dollars in the bank. It used these dollars to pay off the debt. And since it was paying off its debt, other countries kept extending more loans. To pay off these loans, Lebanon kept borrowing, essentially running a Ponzi scheme. It was basically borrowing from A to pay B and then borrowing from C to pay A. But jugaad can only work for so long. Ultimately, you've got to fix the problem or face the music. Lebanon paid no heed to fixing the problem. It did not reduce public expenditure of dollars to save reserves. Plus, the government and those close to it siphoned off a lot of the borrowed money. Result, no economic development, a lot of debt, and no money to pay it off. In 2019, this reality came to light for the government and the people of Lebanon. So, Lebanon tried to make some quick money by adding taxes on petrol, tobacco, and wait for it, WhatsApp calls. Yes, you heard that right. Now people were obviously not happy. So they began protesting and the taxes were removed. Back to square one. No more money to pay off debt. Result, in 2020, the country defaulted on its debt. Bad luck? This was just the beginning of the bad luck. Lebanon was soon hit by COVID. Amidst the pandemic, its capital saw a massive blast that killed hundreds and injured thousands. Since then, the government of Lebanon has changed. Its economic condition? Nah, the country is still struggling with 80% of its population now considered poor. The Lebanese pound has depreciated by 97%. However, for the most part, the government didn't acknowledge this. It maintained the official peg at $1 to 1,507 Lebanese pounds. But because the pound had depreciated a lot, several new exchange rates came up. For instance, if Lebanese citizens wanted to take out deposits from the bank, they would have to pay 3,800 Lebanese pounds for $1. Add to that limits to how much you can withdraw. This has also led to a lot of bank robberies and citizens burning down banks. Several such rates have come up for food, petrol, and black market deals. In the black market, $1 now costs 80,000 Lebanese pounds. These multiple interest rates have made things complicated in the country, leading to more economic instability. The other Gulf countries that once supported it have been turning a blind eye to Lebanon. This is because of its connection with Hezbollah, a militant group that has connections with Iran. The Gulf countries and Iran do not get along. Both powers want to reign supreme over the Middle East. Only one support left: International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. Now, it does not approve of multiple exchange rates, but it is the only one willing to bail out Lebanon with a $3 billion loan. So, Lebanon has no other choice but to listen to the IMF. The IMF wants one exchange rate, so Lebanon has now devalued its currency. $1 equals 15,000 pounds now. Experts claim that this will in no way actually help the country. Multiple rates will still exist, at least in the black market. The move will just make it even more difficult for the country, which heavily depends on imports to afford basic amenities. So, Lebanon's situation looks dire, all because the government focused on siphoning money for itself and quick fixes instead of developing resources that would actually boost the economy. Now, the IMF's loan could bring some relief to the people, especially those who've lost their jobs and still cannot access their savings. But will $3 billion be enough to completely revamp the economy and help change its bad habits? Will 3 billion be enough for a country under a pile of losses mounting to about $73 billion? Thank you for listening to this episode. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Until then, read on.